If I can make it, anybody can make it. I mean, I started off on pretty humble beginnings, very poverty driven, in an abusive, childhood. 6 years of hell, if you like, hospital visits, living with a raging alcoholic, left home at 15, was homeless. And I think if you'd have asked any of my teachers at the time, I was a candidate to be a nothing, a nobody. No potential. You are what your environment makes you, but you're also an outcome of the decisions that you make. And even in those, very traumatic moments, Ahmad, I always felt that I was going to do great.
When you look at his CV, you think, what a force of nature. The really impressive, really done diverse things from food business to dealing with investors, with thinking about health and wealth, and just like I said, a force of nature. And this channel and my curiosity is really about how do people get to where they are? How do they, is it motivation? Is it discipline? Was there a moment that made them who they are today? So I am honored, Des, to have you here.
Oh, Ahmad, my pleasure. Looking forward to digging in and hopefully having a fantastic session here with you.
I appreciate it. And let's start with like the story behind your resume. I think when people look at your LinkedIn, they're going to be impressed. But what's the story behind? What can you tell us that you think is not being said on LinkedIn?
I think it's always good to have a good copywriter who can make anybody look good. But no, in all seriousness, I would say that my story is, I'd like to think it's remarkable, and for the point of, if I can make it, anybody can make it. I mean, I started off on pretty humble beginnings, very poverty driven, in an abusive, childhood. 6 years of hell, if you like, hospital visits, living with a raging alcoholic, left home at 15, was homeless. And I think if you'd have asked any of my teachers at the time, I was a candidate to be a nothing, a nobody, no potential. You are what your environment makes you, but you're also an outcome of the decisions that you make. And even in those, very traumatic moments, Ahmad, I always felt that I was going to do great. I had confidence that, I had aspirations to be a soccer player, a football player. And, my ability was the thing that stopped me, but I always, from a very early age, I love business. People like comic books, people like going to the gaming, people like it at the time at ping pong and Atari and all that kind of stuff. I wanted to learn about business. I loved it. And for me, business has saved my life and made my life. And I think it can happen for anybody and everybody out there. You got to have the uh, capacity to deal with adversity, sit in adversity and challenge, and then have the courage and determination to drive yourself forward. So, kind of, my backstory is one of very traumatic, humble beginnings. Got into the fish and chip shop business with a family friend when I was 15 and homeless. Went on to run that fish and chip shop. Then opened the first video store in the north of England, where I was from at the time. And then convent, small grocery, more like a convenience store is the word I was stumbling for, and then also a butcher's. So I'm running multiple stores at 17, and I left school at 15 with no education. So basically, everything I did was self-driven, and I don't mean that everybody should be in that self-driven world. It's always great to have somebody who can help you, but I think you need that internal light. And if you got it, you're going to do well. And if you haven't got it, then you're going to have to work to get it. And that's part of the conversation that I'm sure we'll have. It's about how do you drive success.
I appreciate your openness to say how traumatic your experience was, and perhaps now you have overcome it. That's why you kind of say like, yeah, I was there, but then like my North Star was success. Was there a mentor? Was there a moment where you thought where that consolidated, or you said you always loved business, but was there a moment where you thought business is what would you tell someone that's in your shoes at that time?
Many things, and one is it's about self conviction, and it's about and I've been through some adversity in my life, and I've been through some awesome up moments in my life. But I would tell you that you have to get comfortable with nothing goes to plan. Doesn't matter if you're running a $28 billion company like I was at Safeway, or a $1 company like I had in my first fish and chip shop van. And on my first day, crashed the van, ruined my business. I just got out of being homeless, bought the business. As my wife would tell you, I'm a terrible driver, and I go and crash my business. And so within 12 hours of signing a lot of debt, I've destroyed my business. My whole life is now back and homeless. So it's like having, what do you do then? You could say, well, it's a good job I'm partly Irish and I forgot, but you just have to have that conviction that you're going to get through it, and you have the belief and the grit and the determination. Now, I could tell you, there was many times I questioned that ability to survive. That I thought, is it all worth it? Is this just my lot in life? And then I shook those thoughts off for what they are, the negative, self-doubting thoughts that you cannot allow to seep in. Like now, my philosophy is I want to die young, as old as possible. Meaning, I want to keep that vigor, I want to keep that mentality, I want to keep that vibrancy in my life as late on in my life as physically possible. Is there going to be challenges along the way? Yes. Am I going to overcome them? Yes. How do I do that? I have a plan. And so I go back to that 15-year-old scared kid who's homeless, sleeping under the bushes. And my God, I can't believe how tough that guy was. But I also can't believe how ignorant to his challenges that guy was. If I knew the things of life that I knew then, I may have given up. but at that time, I didn't know what to not, I didn't know the things to tell me that were going to fail and weren't going to be successful. I was too busy doing the things that made me successful to actually think about the things that weren't going to happen. So it's like a really, it's a conundrum of, thinking. And that's the big words that I use, think. We spend so much time reacting and doing, and not enough time sitting in the moment and saying, okay, I can react to everybody, or I can think my way to a better outcome and then go and deliver that outcome with flawless execution. So I hope that answers your question, as I'm sat there troubled, thinking, oh my God, I've got to walk 7 miles to work just to get to the store because I didn't have the money for a 4 pence, 10-cent bus ticket. I had to use my legs. My legs were my taxi. That was my vehicle of choice. It's all I had until I started to build up, and then was fortunate enough to buy my first house when I'm in my teens. And then I wouldn't say it's been a straight line to success, because that is not accurate. I think every time we think there's a straight line, like Occam's razor, the shortest distance is, I've never found that in life. There's always been roundabouts. There's always been off-ramps. There's always been barricades. And I think the mentality is, I don't really care what the challenge is. It's going to be overcome. And that's the mindset that I hope people can lock into. What are you going to be indestructible? What are you going to be to make any business that you're in, knowing just because you're there, it's going to be better? You're going to differentiate it. You're going to make it special. You're going to be exceptional. Just think about it. Who wants to work, half their life and create mediocrity? I don't think anybody wakes up and says, you know what I want to do when I'm 50? I want to be media. I want to be right in the middle of the pack. It's about exceptionalism, and then going about and getting it. So that's kind of what I developed at a young age. And I would say that the number one fundamental through it all is have a never stop learning mentality. What are you doing today to be better than you were yesterday? When people tell me, oh, I'm bored. Oh, some executives, sometimes you find yourself out of work. It's not comfortable. Well, that's why I come back to, you got to get comfortable in the situation you're in. You got to get comfortable in being uncomfortable. So when I have the opportunity, I'm reading another business. If I'm not reading a business book once a week, I'm reading twice a week, $2 a week. I'm reading fiction. I'm also expanding my brain, so it's not always on for business. It's like you got to have a life. You got to have. I don't believe in work-life balance. I believe in harmony. Harmony. What I mean by that is there's certain days when I'm working 20 hours. I got to put the work in. There's certain days when I'm working 2 hours. So it's not always on, it's not always off. It's not saying I've got this perfect balance between my life and my business and my pursuits. I work on creating harmony, so I manage the peaks well, just as well as the troughs, because they're all coming. Just accept it. It's like breathing. You don't think about it, you just deal with it. That's how I think you can approach business. There's going to be good, bad. How do you then take that and execute? Is what I think is a foundational principle of driving excellence.
So profound and very aligned with me, actually. I find people who overplan and look for perfection are sometimes scared with the unplanned, unhinged, unexpected results that entrepreneurship and life has. Like, even if you have a job, you will be fired one day. If you have a business, you will have a downturn and a moment that doesn't feel comfortable. But what resonated the most with me, and I think that I really resonated with, like I really felt how I approach business is, no matter what problem comes, I can solve it. I have the
Absolutely.
tools, I have the people around me, I have mentors, I have uh, the podcast to ask people, like, how did you overcome this? And then they give you these, like, if you have the mentality that you can overcome things, you will. If you have the mentality that, oh, if things don't go to plan, then I'm dead, then you're dead, or even before starting.
Ahmad, I think it's fantastic insight, and I would tell you that's what we need to grasp onto. I look at it and, I think about the times in my life when I've been told I'm no good, or I'm a failure, or you're never going to do anything with your life. I think to my time when I'm um, running Pizza Hut in the UK, I've become the manager of the year. So I'm clearly capable of running a good restaurant. And I'm getting promoted to area manager, which is running several Pizza Huts in London at the time. And my boss came up to me and said, Des, you're not capable of being an area manager. You'll never be that. You're a great manager. I actually said you're an okay manager. I'm just giving him credit now, but you're an okay manager, but you haven't got the capacity to be anything but a low-level manager in life. Now, I could have said, oh, thank you very much for that. And yes, sir, I believe you. But I would have not been the president and CEO of some major global companies. I took that as rocket fuel and said, thank you and goodbye. And then it's having, I was on LinkedIn the other day, my good friend from the UK, Paul Clark. He was the guy who reached out to me as I'd left Pizza Hut to join Domino's. He reached out to me the day I was walking out and said, Des, I want you in Poland. I need you to come and be my area manager. And my life changed in that moment. Met my wife in Poland, who's American, 30 years of marriage. Everything changed in that moment because I was not going to allow somebody to define my life. And that's what I want to get into people's mind. I don't care what the odds are. If you think you're going to be successful, the chances are you're going to be successful. If you've got the right idea, plan, and you execute. I've been around a lot of leaders, a lot of founders, and I would tell you one of the things that we have to do more on is challenge, what are we solving? If you're a solution looking for a problem to solve, not a great idea. I've been around so many people who think they're going to change the way that we live, and it's a nice idea, but it's not transformational. It's not changing how you eat. It's not changing how you work out. It's actually, quite mundane. And, they obsess on all the inputs. So if I was, let's take toothpaste for a second. I use this analogy quite a lot. If I'm engineer and I'm working on my founder's mentality to be $1 billion business, I'm going to take on Colgate or whoever else, and I've now developed toothpaste, don't think it's a great idea to talk about the 60 chemicals that are inside the toothpaste. It's a great idea to say, when you use my toothpaste, your teeth are whiter than they'll ever be. The teeth are healthier than they'll ever be. You'll do less visits to the dentist. All those things. It's the outputs and not the, not obsess on the inputs. And then to your other point, it's about you got to execute. Ram Sharam's got a great book called Execution. I had the pleasure of meeting Ram when I was running 7-Eleven's 32,000 fresh food locations globally. Great organization, great franchisees, but it's about how do you execute and like you said, if you overthink it, you can't take the knocks. If you get a good plan and then you get everybody aligned, and my view is, another learning for the entrepreneur and the founders and anybody in business really is about how do you make it exciting for the whole team to get behind the vision. There was a article today that I read about the CEO of Panera saying employees don't care about shareholders. Well, shareholders own Panera and they own every company. So if that's not the case, then what are we doing as leaders to make the workforce come to work with a belief that they're doing something that's better? And that's the trick. And if you haven't got it, then go back and think about it. And if you can't think about it some more. And if you can't think about it, probably you're not the right leader to think that business to its future state. I always, Ahmad, when I take a business on, I've served on 20 boards. I've been the CEO I'm president of, almost, 9 companies. Not that the number matters. Most of those have been in private equity. So before you say, God, that guy has a lot of jobs, I'm going in with a mission of 3 years. You're going in, you're turning around, you're making it great, you're selling it on, you may stay for the next turn. And that's kind of the world of PE, very limited hold periods. But the reality is, when you're going in, it's about what are you doing that really generates exceptionalism. Again, I keep coming back to that word. What are you going to do that separates you and differentiates you? And so what I always do in any venture, any business, is I've just taken on my latest assignment of Raw Foods, a living nutrition company. Think it's going to, really dominate and own, health, for protein fuel into your body that is alive. How can you get any fresher than that? How can you not get excited about putting fresh things into your body that's going to do great, add your longevity, make you healthier, all those things? So I think about that business and any I'm involved with and say, what's my headline in 3 to 5 years? What article do I want to have written about this company in 3 to 5 years? And it changes the way you look at it. If it's like, well, I want 5% growth. Oh, I want to win one more customer, a year. Oh, I want to get good packaging. What a boring way to think. It's like, break out. What are you going to do to be demonstrable? Challenge yourself. Challenge the organization. People love to work with people who they know and love. But they also love to be motivated. on something worthy of our time. If half of our life is working and we don't have an exciting agenda, I'd leave. I'd go and find one. I'm not advocating for all your listeners to get out there and leave the job today, but in their own time and frame, what are you putting your time in? You have so limited time to achieve greatness. You got to learn as well, Ahmad, to say no. It's not yes to everything. If what you're doing is incremental and dying of 1,000 cuts, shift your thinking. Change your thinking. You look at in the 1930s, the Fortune 500, the average lifespan of a company in the average 500 in 1920, let's not use 29 because of the crash, but was 75 years. Now it's less than 15. The span has just shrunk in. And what does that tell you? The pace of change is accelerating. How are you staying relevant? So again, you got to be relevant. You got to have the passion. You got to have belief. You got to be a great communicator. You got to sell an idea. You got to inspire yourself and your workflow. You also got to listen to your people. They've got better ideas than you have. You didn't get a lock of all the ideas. And then it's all about execution. You got your headline. Now how are you going to go and do it?
I love that idea. I love the idea of what's your headline, because the headline is something that is very aspirational. It's the famous BHAG, like something that is going to transform, and it's not going to be monetary. It's not going to be percentages. It's going to be companies solved X, change people's lives. I think that's a great way to show mission, because I think vision and mission get distracted with metrics and KPIs, and they're not necessarily that. I think by what you just said is a great way to tackle it. I perceive from you that you are a very action oriented man, a person that does and builds and brings people together, leads them to that mission. But your background isn't exactly the Ivy League, the typical PE pedigree. Did you ever feel like a sense or like a sense of like imposter syndrome, or am I ready for this, or how did you overcome that? Because obviously you have, and your success is the results are there. But I wonder if ever you felt like, because our listeners, I come from Latin America. I'm not, waspy. I don't come from the Northeast. I didn't go to an Ivy League. I went to entrepreneurship school, and and sometimes when I go into PE strategy and I see all these big titles, I'm like, do I know more, or how do you feel about it?
Hey, I like the terminology imposter syndrome. It may have been a label that we would have used back in my day, but we didn't have it. So, what I did recognize is hard work will get you a long way. But hard work becomes actually, I used to think hard work was the table stakes. I'm seeing, and I'm not being negative about, recent developments, but I feel that hard work is now frowned upon by a lot in society. People ask me, they said, Des, you seem to be really busy all the time, and that seems really tiring. And I think it's like, the busier I am, the less I age. I feel that if I wasn't busy, if I wasn't driven, if I wasn't doing all the things I've done, it's like relativism in space. They say space travel. I just read the book, by the way, Hail Mary. If you haven't read it, it's phenomenal. Recommended by my youngest son, and it's got some great sci-fi concepts in. But one of them is, when you're going at the speed of light or whatever, you are doing things that's like 15 years on Earth, and it's 3 years in space. I feel that's how we should approach our lives. If I'm, being more pedestrian, my probably body's going to age a lot, a lot quicker than it has. I'm in denial when I say that, but I feel that pace, energy, uh, packs in quantity makes you feel more vibrant and young. So going back to when I was 27 and or 25, and I was being told I'd never be an area manager. um, I was working to manage a computer rollout before computers. Ahmad, you might appreciate this. So we were taking out, in Pizza Hut delivery, you'd phone for your order, you'd punch in your telephone number, and we'd write the guest checkout for you. Ahmad, okay, you want a pepperoni? Bump, send it out. But then we computerized the system. So when you phoned and I punched in your telephone number, your contact information came up automatically, your past order schedule came up, and I would then be able to service you a lot faster. So it's kind of professionalizing the whole system. Kind of first thing of big data, I suppose, or smart data. And I remember this really vividly, Ahmad, is I had 6 of the best managers in Pizza Hut working for me. And I was just a manager myself a year ago. So as I sat around working with these people who were working for me, I knew an epiphany happened, like to your question. I don't think it was imposter syndrome, but what it was my hard work's only going to get me so far. What I need is skills to augment my mentality. I've got a whatever it takes mentality. But I needed to augment that with intelligence and skill. And, at that time, I didn't have an MBA. I didn't have a degree either. I never got a degree. I got my MBA. I went straight to MBA. I went to the American University in London. The guy told me, the dean, that I wasn't suitable to be a candidate. I didn't have the academic wherewithal or vigor to go through their process. So I called my wife looking for some sympathy. She's on a plane to Germany. I remember it vividly. I'm on the M25, which is the road that goes around London, and it's like a parking lot. The cars just don't move. And I called my wife and said, hey, you know what? I've just been rejected. She said, well, what are you going to do? Moan? Or are you going to do something about it? So I didn't want to throw the phone through the window, but I didn't. And I said, okay, I'm going to do something about it. I drove straight down to London, went straight to the dean's office, the principal at the time, barged in. I would be arrested now. I said, I want to join your university, your college, to be an MBA. Now he sat me down, said, hey, you're not going to, Des, it's not for everybody. He was gracious enough to talk to me. And I said, listen, I'm running hundreds of stores now. I've got lots of managers underneath me. I'm clearly got some ability. Why don't you just test me? So I did the aptitude tests, aced them. 2 years later, I'm magna cum laude. I've got my MBA, and I'm the head guy in the country for qualifications, 3.92 GPA. Now, again, I could have accepted no, or I could have, and I probably would have done if it wasn't for my wife. So you could say, hey, without her, you wouldn't be doing what you're doing either. And I would have to agree on that. But again, we all have these moments that we can either allow to define us or we define them. I always say to people, nobody cares about your career as much as you. But if you work for me, I'm going to maximize your potential. I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to make you better. I'm going to work with you, and you're going to leave my work a better person and a better leader. Guaranteed. No questions asked. That's my responsibility, to others. But the responsibility for me, for you, for your listeners, nobody controls your destiny. You control your destiny. Absolutely, they can influence it. They can have some impact, big or small. But you are what's going to drive success. You, nobody else. So the buck stops with you, and never let anybody else tell you that. Now, if your idea's not good, if you haven't done the research, if you haven't done the due diligence, if you haven't done your homework, then you aren't going to get the optimum outcomes. But to circle back, that's kind of me when I was 27, Ahmad, and I suppose I don't know if it was. I never felt it was imposter syndrome. I did think, God, I seem to be doing well for my limited capacity and ability. But then getting my MBA gave me this unbelievable, like, rocket booster that's never stopped in my life. It's still flaring. Never stop learning. To me, that's the three-letter designation, NSL. It's that important. If I had one thing to say, it's never stop learning. If you never stop learning, you approach everything with an optimistic mindset that you haven't got all the right answers and you can get better. How beautiful is that? Saying every day, I get better.
I'm gonna re-listen to this portion because it's such a you can listen to it in the morning and feel like I'm gonna go get it, and I really appreciate the way you said it because it resonated so much with me. I 100% agree with you. I think that the naysayers are rocket fuel, and the naysayers are welcome even because they are that rocket fuel. And then, never stop learning is something that I find perhaps in the age of AI, people feel that they can find all the answers, but they don't ask the right questions. They don't find the curiosity, the spark.
Yeah.
And it goes to what you said before on, when you start your company thinking you have the answers or have a solution to a product, it usually starts to feel like imposed solution instead of actual solution. And with that, I want to segue into raw foods, natural foods. What drew you to this industry? Because from going from Safeway, 7-Eleven, Pizza Hut, all these food
Yeah.
companies and distribution really, when did you feel that your big problem to tackle in life was going to be health or health food?
It's been I would say for the last 20 years, Ahmad is obviously running perishables for Safeway. It's a 20 plus billion-dollar business selling a lot of vegetables. That was my primary, you know, product. That was the biggest category. Then you're selling a lot of good lean chicken, beef, pork, and others. So a big part of my business then was about better for you, thinking about how do we use our fuel, how do we use our food as fuel to drive to better solutions. Then I got involved in like 2015 into a company called Fruzer, a frozen smoothie company in a tube. So you could eat it on the go. 35 calories, only fruit and vegetables, water, no additives. Brilliant product. And as I'm getting older, I'm having to find new tricks for myself. I got my personal trainer. I got my, chef. I'm spoiled. People. I used to say to my friend said, "Well, it's okay for you. You're wealthy. You can do whatever you want." But most times, I'll see a lot of my wealthy friends just obsess, overindulge, and become less healthy. And money provides different outcomes. You can go and do whatever you want, and you don't want to hit the gym. I want to hit the gym. I hit the gym just before I got on this call. It's what I do every single day. It's about a mindset. So for me, as I'm, getting into my 50s and thinking about what's next for me, I want to be productive for the next 40 years. I'm not going to be one of those guys who's going to, call it in at 75 or 65 and then, slowly die. I've got 40 years of doing great things left, and I want to make my next 40 years better than my previous 50. So I want to be at the optimum amount of capacity, health, wellness, mind, passion, and also lifting others up, Ahmed. I want to make sure that we have an obligation to not throw lip service, but do great things. We've raised $100 million. And I don't say that lightly, and I don't say that like braggadocious, because we care about making people's dreams come true. I remember me being poor. I remember me not having a phone. I remember me not having a TV and walking and being beaten and having an awful childhood. I don't want that. In Baltimore, we did the journey home. So we wanted to eradicate child homelessness. So when I'm the CEO of Centerplate, we got together with the mayor of Baltimore, and we saved hundreds to thousands of kids on an annual, nightly basis have a roof over their head. That's what I want to be doing for the next 30, 40 years. Not just about, hey, how much more money can I put in my bank account? I want to do good stuff. And the companies that I engage with, I want them to do good stuff and give back too. You're going to see several things that we do at Raw Foods. We truly want to be the leader in living nutrition. That means that, when you think about it, every time I was involved at Safeway, or I was involved in Centerplate, where we're serving 140 million customers a year in major sports venues all across the world, you buy a salad and it's great, it's fresh, but it's already been killed, it's been chopped down, and now it's in that bag, and it's how many days has it got left before it's thrown away and spoiled. What about Sprouts is we're growing, it's still alive in your fridge. So I got involved because I thought we could do something fundamentally massive with the Sprout business. We're the number one player. We're in 60% of the grocery stores in North America right now. But we're a fraction of what I would believe we will be in 5 years. We're the biggest Sprout producer. Got it. We're the only one that's alive with its roots on. So when you go to your fridge, think about it. People say, oh, I want to be local. How do you get more local than your product growing in your fridge? You don't take the supermarket to your fridge. So you're bringing our product, it's alive in your fridge. And so the next thinking for us is, we're not in the $50 million Sprout business. I'm in the 8 billion salad business. So think about it. We need foods that are nutrient dense, that help you. So we have a compound called sulforaphane in a Sprout. It gives you 10 to 50 times the nutrient density of eating another vegetable. So why would I have 10 salads when I can have one portion of Sprout that gives me the same nutrient value? If I'm caring about what I'm putting in my mouth and I want to work on my health and my weight, I want to have all the best things going in, not just quantity. I want quality. So you're going to see us repurposing how we grow. We're going to dominate the salad business. You come back in 5 years and we'll have done it. I know we will have done it because we're going to get the team and we're putting them in place now to do it. But you got to have the vision, then you got to have the execution, the team to follow through. So that's why I got engaged personally, because of me, my own, like, hey, how do I maximize myself? But then also knowing, Ahmad, I think what the food pyramid has done to our generation and the ones before, since the 1960s, is criminal. We had a food scientist who basically was paid $50,000 to say sugar's good. And look what happened. My grandfather and grandmother were right. Eat your potatoes. And by the way, I'm on the board of Green Giant Fresh, potatoes and onion, the world, North America's largest marketer of potatoes and one of the largest in onion. Love that brand. That's also doing good things. If you check us out on Instagram, both brands, What About Sprouts and Green Giant Fresh, both doing great things. But it's about, this research for $50,000 flipped the food pyramid. Sugar is now good. Who really believed for one moment that a slice of pizza was a vegetable? Come on. So this ultra processed food has done so much damage. Think about it. 40% of America now has got diabetes. 30 years ago, it was 15%. What happened? Processed food, ultra processed, maximization of junk. And so I'm on a mission now to change that. And I think we're going to get the right living nutrient brands that we're going to grow out, and we're going to build out our infrastructure and do different things. So it's not just about being in the vegetable category. I'm looking at living nutrition being all over. It's being the ultimate living nutrition company. So that's the mission that we're on, and I look forward to coming back and reporting to you if we've executed flawlessly.
I will hold you to that because I'd love to hear more, and I can feel the passion. I can feel the problem that you're tackling. I particularly like how you thought big. It's not about taking $50 million Sprout business. It's about changing $8 billion salad business or fifty
Yep.
billion dollar sugar business. And I think that you know you inspire, you bring people together. You said execution is a lot, and congratulations on raising $100 million. That's no small feat. People that haven't raised $100 million, people that, and you've returned a lot of money through private equity, through capital raising, investor relations.
Mhm.
What are lessons learned there for? I don't think this is not a call for people to raise $100 million. I think that's a responsibility that you don't want to have, unless you're 100% sure you do. But for those who do, who think I if I got $100 million, I could do great. But what lessons can you give us from raising money and returning money to investors, investor relations, and approaching capital raising, which is very difficult?
Yeah, it's, and they're all different. There's going to be different answers to those different components and constituents, if you like, Ahmad. But I would tell you that uh, you will not raise a dollar. You will not do anything for charity. You will not do a capital expansion without success. So you got to have success. Success begets success. So first of all, you got to deliver. So my dad used to say to me all the time, "You got potential, Des." That meant I hadn't done things. I haven't achieved things. So first and foremost, I would say if you're in a business and you're a founder, deliver, execute, get your plan right, pay back your investors, drive your business, get a good return. Do the right thing for, if you can, for the employees, and you might do some local charity work. But once you've done that, then you have a license to perform and lift others up. And then it's easier. I didn't start off giving $100 million away. We started off by being very successful at, Hot Stuff Foods and 7-Eleven and Safeway and IHOP. And then when I got to Centerplay, the largest event hospitality company in the world, in North America, I should say, probably the world at the time for sports and entertainment, then you have the ability to influence and use your platform for good. So, when companies say I want to get straight into giving back all my profits, then I would challenge that. I would say, no, no, no. First and foremost is you are not working pro bono on your business. So founders, pay yourself. Before you do other things, look after yourself. Because if you're not looking after yourself and your family and then your friends, you're not looking after the right things. So do that first. Have a really strong foundation. Then when you say, hey, you know what? I remember my first deal at Hot Stuff Foods. It was a $90 million company, South Dakota. I had to go to South Dakota, Dances with Wolves land. Beautiful people, beautiful country, by the way, and stay. But a little bit harsh, particularly when I've been used to living in London and Dallas and other big cities. You're living in a city that had 3 quality restaurants at the time. They've got more now. And please, anybody who's listening from South Dakota, don't hate me. I love the state. I love Mount Rushmore. But the reality is, we were doing we had the Orion Challenge, which was a give back to spousal abuse survivors. And so we had a golf charity. The founder of the company would bring in, pro golfers to be in this tournament every year. We raised millions of dollars. Then we started working on the children's initiatives in South Dakota, where it was my first pledge of $500,000. I'd already achieved a level of success before I got to that level. So you don't start big on those things. You start looking after yourself, funding yourself, making sure your business is strong, then going out. And then if you're raising money, different, if it's VC, if it's family and friends, if it's private equity, they're all different conversations, Ahmad. So to be honest, there's not a one-stop shop. If you read my book, Think Your Way to the Top. Not that I'm saying that everybody should, but I think it'd be great for them. It's 52 fort exercises, one a week over a year, that I think will be a force multiplier. And it lists out what I think are the 52 largest learnings for a leader who wants to accelerate their life, who wants to maximize their life. So for, I think it's on Amazon for $12.99 hard copy. It's more expensive, but it's worth it. And please reach out to me if you're listening to this and you got questions. Happy to answer. From that we raised and raised from the ground up the Thinking Academy, where 18 what I call fort Sherpas, CEOs who've been there and done it, have joined me to help people who want to really accelerate their careers go into a formal training program with my team. And, former CEO of, The Limited, Chico's, 8 times Fortune 500 IT, AI guru, and so on and so on, former president of Walt Disney Retail. These guys are all coming together where we're saying, we want to give back. We want to help you accelerate your career. That's what I would say. Work on your young founder, you're a young manager. Work on the hard skills and soft skills. Get those trainings in place. Good things are going to happen when you're right to fund it. But fund yourself first properly. Great that you have a noble mission. But first of all, make sure you're paying yourself. You're getting the right amount of sleep. You're getting the right amount of exercise. You're doing the things that fundamentally make you a strong unit. Then you can really accelerate without the wheels falling off.
Such valuable advice, and especially the success begets success, because I remember when I started my investment management company, I didn't have a logo, I didn't have a name, I didn't have a website, I didn't have social media, I didn't have a secretary, I didn't have anything, but I had results.
Right.
So people, I joke that I would walk down the street and people would put money in my pocket, because it would be like, whatever you decide, put it to work, because I showed other people that I am a better investor than I am an entrepreneur, and they trusted my nose, how I can feel which ones. And I say feel because now it's become more professional and more data driven perhaps, and we AI powered our process, but there's always a feeling at the end, is gut, does this make sense? Can this be, and my word is coherence. Is it coherent, what you're saying? Does it make sense? Does it have full circle? When someone tells me, I had a founder talk to me yesterday and said, hey, I'm looking for money because I want to put a food factory, and there's really not a lot of options in this market. This market is huge on tourism. And then he said the cardinal sin to me, which is, and then this could be a X valuation and then sell. And I was like, you cardinal sin, because if you're not thinking about the problem you're solving and you're thinking about the exit, it's like the tennis player that's winning 5-2 on the last set and starts thinking of the outcome, usually loses the game. So I really love that.
I lost to my older brother in Santa Monica. I was beating him 5-3, 40-15, and I thought about winning. You're so right. We all can learn, for sure. Great insight. And my view is, every business that I'll leave you with this, I suppose. Every time I've gone into a business, either a board member or leader, my mentality is, even though I know it's private equity and the hold's going to be 3 to 5 years, my mentality is, I'm holding this business forever. Now, is it for sale? No. Could it be for sale? Yes. But my mentality is, I'm holding it forever and I'm building for legacy. I'm building it to make it better and leave it better for the next custodian. And it also is very humbling. You're not going to take that company We're not living in the Japanese era when you work for one company all your life. Good for them. We're not in that environment anymore. So, but my mentality is it's a long term hold, and I'll entertain, like you should, things along the way. But I'm planning like raw foods. It's for life. It's a long term. It's a long term play.
Exactly, exactly. Um, Thank you for your book because I think it's going to be an incredible. I think books are access to people's brains
Yep.
intrusively. Like you could reread it, you can
Yep.
highlight, you can ask questions, you can read it after years. So I really appreciate you
Yep.
doing writing a book and now having the program. Just one question about leadership, which I find fascinating, and I'm striving to be a better leader every day.
Good for you.
What is a critique of leadership you have today that you could finally you have this megaphone, you have this channel to say, "Hey guys, you're getting it wrong here," and I'm gonna say it once and for all.
There's a lot that hey, I don't want to appear like I'm going to waffle here because I don't think it's a one answer is right. It's kind of a lot of things, but I would say that if you're not authentic, you're not a good leader. If you're fake, authentic, you're even worse leader. So you got to learn and become like second nature. Your job is to build. It's to build teamwork, it's to build communication, it's to build the customer base, it's to build great products. So you're a builder. And through that, do it all honestly, with integrity and authenticity. And I think you're going to be in a good place to start. And then it's about having that never, do whatever it takes mentality. If you're a leader who quits at the first obstacle or falls like a cheap suit, what's that? And I would also say, be. I love challenges. You know, if your idea can't handle transparency and an open spotlight on it, it's not a very good idea. Now you can get frustrated with all the questions. I'm known to be a little bit impatient at times because I want to move faster. But you should be able to address the fundamentals and embrace people to make you better. You know, people don't get up and say it's 9 o'clock. It's time to screw up. Oh, it's 9:30. It's time to give somebody some bad feedback. I look at it as people are genuinely good and wanting to succeed. So act accordingly. Do the same. Don't be a hater. There's a lot of haters out there. Don't be a keyboard carnivore. Be somebody who says, you know what? When people have been with you, around you, worked with you, they can say a couple of things, and one of them better be, God, that guy just made it better. And that's what I would like people to be able to say about me. The guy just made it better by being in the room. And that's the great way to be a leader. If you can't do that, doesn't matter how smart you are, people aren't going to follow you. Do you make them feel like they're part of the team and the mission? So it's about having that ability not to manipulate, but to synthesize and pull people in. It's like, and the gravitational force of a great leader is an unbelievable thing when you see it in motion. And I know that when I've worked for people like that, I'd knock down walls, I would run through fires, and I would do things for them that if they asked me to do it, I wouldn't. But they didn't ask me because I do. That's what a leader brings.
Love it, Des. I see the podcast as a library of mentors, of knowledge, of experience, and this one has been one of my favorite chapters. I really really appreciate you coming on, sharing your knowledge, sharing your wisdom, sharing your stories.
I
I'm
appreciate
gonna
that.
run to my team and say, you have to watch this episode. And for people that are listening, if you want to be a leader, I think Dez's story is one to learn from.
That was great. If I can help you in the future, just reach out.
No, I really appreciate it. You being here, and then I'll hold you to a 5 year podcast. So in person, hopefully, whenever you're in Miami, I would love to host you and then have a deeper conversation about leadership and where you're going, because I think there's a lot more to unpack.
I look forward to it. Thank you, and enjoy Miami. I'm up here in Tampa.
Thank you, Des.
Bye.
Bye.